Hello everybody, welcome into the Hobby Bar. This is Jason, welcome. Today, kind of forgot to shoot a little bit of the intro, so no hand waviness, just adding in some black wash. We'll be diving right into it. But if you do any hobbying, feel free to jump in. If you're working on other stuff, feel free to kick back, relax, and chill out. Thanks for joining me. Today we'll be trying to wrap up this Knight-Zephyros. So, onto the black wash, getting it on the mini. I wanted to use this on the parts that are metallic, the sort of irony, steely metallic, just to give it sort of that older, just dark irony look to it. Figured that would contrast the bright gold pretty well, and the Turbo Dork Motherlode on color shift paint on the axe heads. So I wanted to go in, darken it down a little bit, but not like too much. That's why I'm not using a strong tone or dark tone, I think it's called, for Army Painter. I'm not using one of those paints. I'm just using the Cuttlefish Colors black wash because their washes are kind of similar to their other paints where they're not super strong, but they get the job done nicely for relatively subtle effects. If you're looking for stronger coatage, though, probably not the best for it, or it'll take you multiple layers, which arguably might be better. With that, we'll go ahead and finish up the black wash, and here in a bit, we'll start on the next color. Alrighto, for this one, kind of making a mix of colors here for the highlight. I haven't really tried this much. I have a palette. It makes sense to try to mix colors on a palette though, so I did want to give this a shot. Because of using the Crawdaddy Red on the cloak, it's already a pretty bright red. I needed to have another color that I could highlight into, and didn't really want to just add white to it, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some Crawdaddy Red and some Fall Harvest, which is the orange color on there, and gonna make a mixture of that together to try to make a reddish orangish hue, and then we're gonna add in a little touch of White Knight, which is a white paint that is part of the Cuttlefish color line, and that'll become the highlight color for the red. Highlighting with the redder tones, red, orange, yellow, highlighting towards yellow and then towards white seems to look a little better to me than just adding white to it and sort of desaturating the color a bit that way for a highlight. Unless you're going for like a super clean look, in which case, you know, white, shiny, sort of armor look. It can make sense, so. This is just a cloak though. I didn't want it to be a super shiny cloak, so didn't want to just desaturate the color for the highlights. I wanted to sort of give it a different tone though, so, or whatever that would be called. Just highlight it up towards yellow, so that's why we're going towards orange here with it, with an orangish red. Not really going to do a mixture of paints because we're going to be running through so many of them, but figure just show a little bit of the process for mixing, since it's kind of one of my first attempts at mixing paints, and going on from there. Anyway, here in a few, catch up with you on the next paint. Alrighty, here we are moving on to Cuttlefish Colors Black Knight. This is one of the black paints, or I think this is the black paint that they have for the line, and I wanted to use this to sort of go over the Abaddon black that I used on the pistol and stuff that's tucked behind her, this mini's waist. Wanted to do that because I kind of wanted to see how the coverage would look and if it would look different, because in the dropper it looks kind of more of a dark gray than a black. Like a Abaddon black, which is a very dark, strong black. So I wanted to just see how it would coat. And after putting it on, it kind of looks about the same, so not really sure the difference of why it looks gray in the dropper and pure black on the mini, but oh well, whatever, it works, so I was happy with that. I also figured add a touch of it onto the claws here on the pelt, because this way they can be base coated something a little different. Didn't really quite know what to do with those, but I didn't want them to be stark white or like nail colored, like yellowish nail, but we'll figure that out later. Anyway, catch up with you all here in a bit for the next bit of painting. Alrighty, here we are moving on to a little bit of Black Knight with some Vallejo Metallic Medium. So I wanted to mix these together because I picked up some Metallic Medium and I'm kind of happy using it. But figured, you know what, this metal, it's still supposed to be like a metallic pistol, so I wanted to put some metal on it, and I figured since it's tucked behind her, the white portion of the crossbow gun kind of thing that she has wouldn't really be showing, so I would just make it a blackish grayish metallic back there in case any light gets back there, it can still reflect and shine. So that's what we did real quick. Here we are with some Auric Armor Gold from Citadel. This is a layer paint gold that they do. So it's a little bit thinner than the Retributor Armor, a little bit shinier, more yellowish as well. So kind of overbrushing, kind of dry, almost dry brushing, which is sort of what overbrushing is, but I'm not drying out the paint first. And while I was painting this, I kind of had a few interruptions, that's why I'll pause sometimes, or sometimes just make a trick shot with the brush, you know, things that happen. Yeah, we're just sort of going around overbrushing to highlight up the gold again to that sort of bright, polished gold look for, I didn't want her to have sort of a tarnished gold look like the squad of Vanguard Raptors that she'll be going with and traveling around with, but, wanted her to have a bright gold, like, the gold's been taken care of a bit better or something. But this will take quite a bit of work, and we'll come back to the gold a few times here later on. But, yeah. We'll go ahead and get this gold highlighted up all over the mini. Well, as many places I remember. Some places we might have to come back to later. And, yeah, get that done. So, go ahead and keep rolling this, and I'll catch up with y'all here for the next bit of paint. Alrighty, here we are moving on to some Runefang Steel. It's another Citadel layer paint, metallic, and I'm using it to sort of highlight up some of the areas that we did with the black wash earlier. So I want to catch some of the edges on some of the metallic bits, also using it to sort of overbrush on the part with the Quellia green shade from last time. Those sort of greenish parts of the lightning on the back of the axes. So go ahead and use a slight bit of this over those silvery metallic areas. And yeah, just chugging along through the paints on this one. So catch up with you here in a bit for the next paint that we'll move on to. Alrighty, here we are moving on to some Turbo Dork Cool Ranch. It's just a normal blue metallic that they do, but I like it since it's just a standard blue and it's metallic, and I don't have to mix it myself. So just adding some of it onto the pistol here, just in case any light gets back there. This way you can kind of see that tinge of blue, so it kind of ties her into the rest of the duders she's going in there with. After that, we're jumping into some light tone from Army Painter. Bringing this back out because I wanted to get this little cloth, I guess, I can't remember what to call it, but this little cloth bit, some light tone to sort of linen it up. And then we're jumping in with some Retributor Armour again. I noticed I missed some spots, so some spots weren't well coated with the gold, so even brushing on the Auric armor gold wouldn't really help much, so I needed to come back in with some Retributor Armour, the Citadel base paint for gold, which is sort of a darker tone of gold, but it's slightly denser, so it'll coat a bit better. So I needed to come back in here with that to get some gold in there before we highlight it up later. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get this done up, and then we'll move on to the next paint here in a bit. Alrighty, back with the Auric Armor Gold again. Here we are, just highlighting up some other areas. I want to hit the lightning on the cloak in particular this time. So, doing that real quick. And by real quick, I mean we're moving on to the next paint already, which is going to be Dark Brown Wash. So for the Dark Brown Wash, I wanted to use this on the paws of the pelt, just to darken down those paw bits, the beanie parts, if you will. Didn't really want to do pink. I was thinking about it, but I decided since it's supposed to be one of those earthy sort of pelts, do that up for the paws instead. And then also I wanted to make the middle part, what would be the middle of the pelt, darker. So came in here, basically trying to make a strip of dark brown wash. Now we're back to the Auric Armor Gold though. I wanted to pick out these little symbols on the outside of the pelt. And now we're coming in with Dryad Bark. So I figured, well, while we're at it, might as well start work on the base, because at this point most of the minis done up. Might as well just get the base going as well. Maybe save an episode or two. Maybe it won't take me more than 6 hours to finish a mini for once. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and put the first layer of Dryad Bark here with this one. And then, yeah, get a second coat down. This way it's a nice, strong, dark, earthy brown for dirt. Underneath what will be the Agrellan Earth to fit in with her other bros. So, yeah, kind of just working at it with the Dryad Bark for the base. And kind of quickly did the second coat on this one. I didn't really wait for this first coat to really dry too much before coming in with this second coat, but still seemed to work out fine, so it kind of worked out in the end. But we'll go ahead and finish up this first coat here, let the second coat play through, and I'll catch up with y'all here for the next bit of paint. Alrighty, here we are on to dry brushing. Need to let the paints dry up, so this is a bit later on. We're coming back in with some dry brushing. This is going to be some Eldar Flesh that I wanted to add on to the cloak. I figure, even though it's more of a fleshy kind of a color, maybe it'll work, because it's also sort of yellowish for the pelt. This way the fur doesn't just look brown and with a bit of white. Because later we're going to come in with Terminatus Stone for the final highlight dry brush. But I figure this might be a good mid-tone dry brush, and I'm pretty happy with the result. Looked like to me there was a bit of paint coming through, which maybe there was, and I just couldn't tell, but it's fine. I think it still works out at the end, in the end, so yeah, we're just using a cheapo little makeup brush here to do it, and I kind of like it more than some of the longer bristle brushes, just when doing some of this dry brushing. But we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and I'll catch up with y'all here in a bit for the next color. Alrighty, next up here we got some Terminatus Stone again. Another Citadel dry paint. Just wanted to use this as final highlight color of the pelt. This way the tips of the fur is sort of picked out a bit better than what would be the deeper, denser parts of the fur. So that's why we're highlighting with these colors. And yeah, just going around, gonna dry brush this up, get it on there. And basically that's it for the pelt. Nice and easy. A bit of leaving it basically white and then toning it down with some washes and then dry brushing it. It's pretty simple, really. Now we're on to Mechanicus standard gray though, because this Knight-Zephyros is jumping off a rock for whatever reason. A very tiny rock. So, trying to think if I want to also make it sandstone, which might be a little weird to match with the rest of the armor, but it would match the other rocks on the other dudes, so I don't know. But I also know some areas on the mini kind of were still like in light gray tone. They weren't really in the stone color and they weren't really in Mechanicus standard, so I wanted to come in here and paint some of those areas Mechanicus standard to give them really that shadowish color for the rocks that I've been using, since it's the base coat for all of them. But yeah, we'll go ahead and make sure that all that's covered up real quick and catch up with you here for the texture paint. Alrighty, here we are, gonna apply the Agrellan Earth to the base of this mini. So, Agrellan Earth is a Citadel texture paint that they do. It's the sort of lighter crackly paint that they make, or crackle texture basing that they do have. And I use it for all the desert stuff. So, Gene Stealer cults that are going to be outside, so like the motorcycle people. The Daughters of Cain that I have, which new battle tome here next week, basically, or end of the week, since, yeah, that'll be real soon, and that's kind of exciting, kind of not, because some of the reveals seem lackluster, but yeah. We'll go ahead and spread this around though. When spreading it around, I tend to like to sort of dab it a little bit, so like push down on top to give it sort of an uneven texture, rather than trying to spread it evenly like you're spreading frosting on a cake. I tend to like to just sort of bounce the texture tool across it a lot. This way I get an irregular pattern as well. And it helps make varying amounts of crackle in different areas so that it'll dry in an interesting way. Anyway, after going around and applying this to everything, what I wanted to do was try to just sort of show how it crackles around. So I figure set up the camera in time-lapse mode, and we'll see how well that works out in this video. Yeah, it should be interesting. So that'll be coming up here in a few. Alright, here we are running the time lapse for this thing. So, for the time lapse, I just wanted to try to show how the paint crackles while it's drying. And this was over the course of, I want to say, 3 hours for it to fully crackle. Like, I think I left it 2 hours to crackle and then another hour or two off camera to actually fully set. And before I started moving the mini around again. I don't think movement really matters that much. You just don't really want to touch it or interact with it while it's doing this crackling. And then you do want to let it set while it's still drying. This way it isn't like loose and you get chunks falling off or anything like that. In my experience, pretty much, I want to say like 6 hours to set in this dry climate. Otherwise, yeah, I've definitely pulled off chunks of it when dry brushing it later. So, with that, I didn't know if I would film a bit more of like rimming the base, going over with a dry brush and gluing down the tufts, or doing a final checkup on the mini just to see what else I need to hit or miss, or what else I've missed. But yeah, just sort of letting the camera in while it watches paint dry. Because I didn't really have anything else to do on it at this point, and messing with it would potentially screw up the base or other parts, so figure mini's pretty much done at this point, but just in case people are interested to see how it goes about crackling, I wanted to leave this bit in here. But yeah, we'll go ahead and let this finish up, and we'll move on to the last call. Hopefully this time it looks a bit better because I'm trying a different recording method, since it wasn't really working out how I would hope it would using the camera. So trying it with my phone for a little bit of a different camera, see how that handles it. Anyway, catch you up here in a bit for the spin for the basically completed mini. I'll probably rim the base off camera again. No big deal. So talk to y'all here in a bit for that. Alrighty, last call everybody, last call. Didn't want to leave the camera running too long since I'm trying it on my phone. Figure maybe it can get a bit better quality out of it, running this instead of the other camera. And figure what the heck, I can probably loop this too. Make it seem like it's just going for a while instead of having to record like a couple minutes of footage of just sitting there watching it spin. So, gonna go ahead and loop this spin. Let's see, don't really have the next project lined up offhand. I'll have to figure that out here in a bit, because we basically wrapped up this project, so need a new one for the table. Hope you all had a wonderful time, and yeah, if you have any questions or comments, anything you want to talk about, we can do so down below, or in the comment section, wherever it might be, where you're viewing. Anyway, take care everybody, have a good one out there.